My friend, this is for the beginning bass player that feels like they've got a couple chords, they understand a couple notes. What do I mean? G major has a 1, 3, 5, G, B, and D, meaning in the key of G major, we have a G, an A, a B, a C, the D, E, and then rather than have an F, we have an F sharp to give us that last whole step, and then a whole step, and then a half step for the resolution. What we're looking for at this point is to be able to build vocabulary just like that. What is a minor second? The smallest distance in Western ear music. What is a whole step when you add a minor second plus a minor second? How many whole steps are there in this scale? What happens if you skip that whole step and you just play all whole steps? The idea is there is so much terminology in the beginning, but all of these words, the vocabulary, tends to be the foundation of music. So for me and for many others, there's two different parts to this. One is vocab, which deals with markings, dynamics, different types of ways to use the different terms, like a tie or a slur. How do you take a note that's a half note worth 2 beats and then tie it to a quarter note that's worth 1 and then make the entire phrasing for 3 beats? This would be what we would be calling either a dotted half note, or we could use a tie together or slur. It's a legato marking. So knowing what legato is, being able to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's a big difference. Knowing that legato can have the opposite of legato, which is staccato, very short and detached notes. Between the two of those, they lead to a lot of different musical concepts. So if you didn't know what staccato was, but you knew what legato was, you would only know half of the puzzle piece. Same thing with something like this. This is called an accelerando. It doesn't matter what I'm playing, but if we go from one speed to another and it slowly gets gradually faster, that's an accelerando. What's the opposite of an accelerando? Decelerando. So if we had terms of opposites work very well with vocabulary because generally in most languages you have a term for both sets, one being the action and one being the opposite of that action. So when we do something like one of our music theory conquests, how about we play a D and we go up top to a D, so we're doing octaves, and then go down a whole step. You can explain this two different ways. You can explain it as being in D and playing octaves or perfect eighths, and then going down a whole step to play C. You would know that in the key, you're not playing a major or a minor because we're not influencing either one of these chords with the major or the minor third. So each one has the possibility of being in many different keys. The idea is tonally, if you know how to play a C, D, you understand it's only a whole step away. If the next note you were to hit is an E flat, the first thing I would think is that we're playing a C natural minor, meaning we flatten the third, we're going to eventually flatten the sixth, flatten the seventh, and go to the 1. That's another vocabulary word. That works with more of something called theory, understanding that in the Western ear we have half steps. When we have these half-step markings, eventually we go through 12 of them and we find ourselves playing something called a chromatic scale. Also in the Western ear, if we don't play all 12 notes, but we play 7 in a very specific order, we get ourselves an Ionian mode or a major scale. This is called a, septatonic, 7 notes, and then it has another name called diatonic scale. Now that's what we choose to call the 7-note scale. Reason being, you'll find out that when you play a C and an E together out of the possible C, E, G, which makes up a triad, just the C and E make up a major third. The first 2 dyads of every triad make up the sonority of the key. So at this point, what you've realized, if you have no clue what I'm talking about, that there are different words that help us describe mechanisms on every different instrument. Once you learn them for one instrument, they work for another. There will be variables like somebody will say, you know, like violin, cello, anything that's like in an ensemble that does not have frettings would use some sort of function like this, where they would keep a thumb right here and reach over the notes and pluck. This is called pizzicato. Just because we don't quite call it pizzicato on the bass, it still is the same function. So the idea is, the further along you get within your vocabulary, the easier it is to make communication with other people that or might be playing the music you like, or something you're trying to get into. When learning how to play new things, you watch as many videos as you can. You talk to as many musicians, you play in as many projects as you can. And then as soon as you got a basis of just what your core foundation is of music, you realize that you need to understand what you're saying. So all day long, you could say 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. But as long as you know how to say this is something called C Lydian, and we're changing the subdominant to an augmented subdominant to give it that raised fourth. The reason why we don't call it a flat 5, 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, is because the 5 note, the G, is already being utilized. We don't say C, D, E, G flat, G. In that case, what happened to the 4 chord, or the F? Being able to analyze these things helps you to realize sometimes these modes and scales and progressions fit together like puzzle pieces. Some of the puzzle pieces might be wonky and kind of look like this, but you will eventually find something that fits in there that works with music. So find yourself a cool teacher, find yourself a video channel, watch as many of these videos as you can. Don't just take my word for it. Watch other channels, watch what their fingers do. My practice basically is considered of this. If you can do this on a bass, then you can do it on a uke and a guitar and a mandolin and a banjo and all sorts of other things. You can even go vertically and do it on a piano. When you get the right fingerings, the right vernacular for what you're doing, the things that you start to do become a little bit easier and almost, dare I say, effortlessly. So when we see that playing the circle fifths, C, G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, and C sharp, can give us practice patterns. You can practice this all day long and never get better unless you know what to use it for. Putting a little groove behind it. You could go through all of your sharps, all of your flats. You could learn C, E, G, E, G, B, G, D, but you don't necessarily need that vocabulary to just play and have fun. It really just depends on how much effort you want to put into learning these terms. Glissando, andante, relative minor, natural minor, fermata, forte, pianissimo. There's just so many different dynamic markings, many different ways to play. And then I guess the note that I'll leave you on here for bass, beginner basis. If you already have like a computer, an iPad, an iPhone, anything that would run a app on there, find yourself a chord writing application. The best way to learn music is to write music. So if you don't know how to chart a chord, check out this channel or type into the Google's charting a music song. You will find that there are many different ways to do it. Some people have different ideas on how to do it. Some have great ideas, some have bad ones. I hope that everything I'm saying is top notch, but I'm just human. The idea is the more that I teach, the more I learn. The more that I learn, the more I want to teach. It's a never-ending kundalini of music awesomeness. So, having said that, learning some vocabulary words will definitely help you in the long run. Getting a teacher will help you do that. But I'm going to do a whole different video on what you should expect when getting a new teacher. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up if you did. Maybe put the number 33 in the comment section so I can see who's a special listener. And we'll see you soon. Aloha.